So before I start, and I don't know if I can sort of live up to that lead-in, but before I do, there's nothing that I've done professionally that I'm more proud of than founding the entrepreneurship program at University of Georgia, and I have 4 of my products in here. So I just want to recognize them real quickly. Miss Stephanie Knowles, Miss Michelle Blue, Mr. Leo Manzione, and Mr. Sean Hicks. I don't know where you guys are. There you are. So if you guys could stand up real quick. I promise you, all of these guys, they're going to be speaking at events like this. You just give them a couple more years because they're all entrepreneurs and they're all doing their thing, so they're all great. So thank you so much. I definitely want. And I get to lecture to them one last time. It's so awesome. So although I did feel bad because Stephanie was concerned about graduating and walking across stage because she didn't see the grade from my class yet. So I apologize for creating that stress for you. But anyway, okay. So, but yeah, and before I leave the University of Georgia thing, I just got to do what I got to, oh yeah. I just got to do that. Oh, drink it in. It always goes down smooth. So yeah, all right, there we go. Okay, good. And so, and you know what, and actually I think I might move because, you know, 1 week ago today, on Friday, I was in on stage at an elementary school. I was at Austin Elementary School. And I was talking, you know, we do some work with K through 12 on entrepreneurship, and I fell off the stage in the lunchroom. I completely fell off the stage, so I'm recovering from an injury from doing that, and but the kids thought it was hilarious. So it's a good way to end it. So actually, I might just move a little bit over here so that I don't paranoid and fall down on the stage again. But this is sort of what, like I had a speaking engagement every single day this week. And this is the one that I was most uptight about. And I wasn't quite sure what to do because how do you become compelling and provocative in 15 minutes on a subject as diverse as entrepreneurship? I mean, entrepreneurship has so many levels to it, right? We could talk an entire semester just on the concept of entrepreneurial finance because that's different than finance, how we traditionally teach it. And so there's so much to it. You know, like how do you build a marketing system that generates consistency of revenue? How do you get employees to care more about the business than you do? I mean, what about funding? What about value propositions? But all of those demand more time so you don't sound like you're just full of it when you're talking about it. So it's like, what can I do to be compelling and provocative? And I was uptight about it because I really respect Tim and what he does. And Tim's made me a much better version of me. And I just wanted to make sure I did well and didn't mess up. And so I was really, really stressed. And then they said, you know, finally I had to email the title. I was kind of like, you know, got an email, hey, we need to know the title because the programs are going out. And it was late at night. And so I thought, you know what, maybe I'll just focus more on the upper level instead of its topic. And so I emailed, hey, I guess the title will be Winning Entrepreneurship, which is a stupid title. Now I look at it, it's like, what was I thinking? I know I was sleepy, but oh my gosh, what a dumb title. I think if there was an award for worst title today, I think I'd win it. Winning Entrepreneurship, what does that even mean? How do you even measure that? Right? What is it winning entrepreneurship? You measure that in terms of money? I mean, think about the amount of decisions that you have to make every single day, right? The multitude and the speed at which you have to make decisions. How can you expect to get all of those right? You know? So maybe a better way to phrase it is like, how do you improve your batting average? Because, you know, the best hitters in the world, if they succeed, you know, like, if they succeed like 3 out of 10 times, they're considered like the best in the game, right? So maybe we could just increase the batting average a little bit. So what could I say, what could I do to sort of get you to sort of come out with something you could apply to increase your batting average as an entrepreneur? So I thought about the Peter Drucker quote. I'm a big Peter Drucker fan, and for those who don't know who he is, he's a big management guru, and or was, and he's got a lot of great quotes that I like, but one of them is, the bottlenecks are always at the top. Like, I know one thing about you without even knowing you. I truly believe that the biggest problem in your business is you. I believe that. Now, we like to point to other things. No, it's the economy and the technology and all that. Yeah, no, I've struggled with all that too. But there's always somebody else who had the same set of circumstances that was able to overcome that. Why did they do it and you didn't? I know with absolute certainty, and I have absolute clarity, that the reason I'm not more successful at what I do, the reason I'm not better at what I do, the reason I'm not getting the better results that I want, it's because of me. And if I could just fix me, then I would be better. I get better results, and you know. But I'm my problem. So what could I do to leave you guys with something to sort of fix you, right? And I spent so much of my younger life as an entrepreneur, so much trying when I was trying to sort of master this subject. And I'm a big subject guy, so I want to go all in on a subject. I want to learn exit planning. I want to learn everything I can about that. Valuation, I want to learn everything I can about that. And so I was always looking, I was on this quest for answers. And if it was simple, I kind of dismissed it. Yeah, I heard that one, but I've heard that before. And then I immediately dismissed the simple. Now I'm older, and I feel like I'm a little bit wiser, and now I'm going back to the simple. So the simple is so powerful, because at first our temptation is it sounds kind of trite, it sounds kind of simplistic, but you know what? Yeah, our reaction is almost to dismiss it, like I've heard that before, but wait. How do I take that simple thing and start applying it? And that's when we start experiencing the power of that simple. So what I'm about to say is probably to some of you, you can say, yeah, that sounds simplistic. But it's not. I promise you, if you apply it, and you start working on these things, I promise you, you're going to get better results. You know, the simple is not so simple. So I'm just going to give you a framework. 3 things. That's okay. Like, I believe that these 3 things, like, what if you had 3 things? What if there were 3 things that you could start? Like, you say, you know what? If I could just do these 3 things and have these 3 things as an entrepreneur, I would just be so much better at what I do. I would consistently outperform my competition. What if I just have these 3 things? And I believe very, very strongly that if an entrepreneur had all 3 of these things, they could not be stopped. But they all sound simple, but they're not simple, and it's hard to get. All right? So, I mean, really have them. Not like, well, I kind of have it. No, you don't. Do you really have these 3 things? So this is the framework that I'm going to sort of lay out for you guys. All right. So this is the first one. Now, I do a lot of stuff in the classroom and stuff to try to keep things interesting so that people don't cut my classes and come to them. And I used to be in the music business, and so I've done things like I did a whole thing on value propositions just this week, and I named all of my approaches on musicians. And I've got, when I coach people on how to pitch for funding and stuff like that, and what are the strategies for pitching, they're all named after musicians because it's easier to say that and people remember that better than if I describe the structure. So I figured I'd just keep with that same theme. And so, does anybody know a George Michael song? According to George Michael, what do you gotta have? Faith. I know, isn't that a weird image to talk about the concept of faith? I know, it's a little weird. But, you know, maybe it's a little bit more memorable that way. Yeah, faith, all right? Faith. Is it facts that move mountains? It's not facts that move mountains, right? What is it that moves mountains? It's faith. And if an entrepreneur has faith, an entrepreneur has to have faith because you, by the very definition of you being an entrepreneur, you believe that tomorrow is better than today, right? That's entrepreneurship. I believe that the future is better than today, but the problem is I can't see the future, so I have to believe that it's better. And I have to communicate, not only do I have to have faith, but I have to communicate that faith to others, right? And that's a really hard thing sometimes. Now, I believe most of us in here, if we took a poll, most of us in here, we would feel like, I think most of us in here are optimists. Most of us are glasses half full kind of people. I believe that because entrepreneurs don't say, well, you know, the business will probably fail, but I guess I'll start it anyway. You know, you don't do that. You know? So I believe most of us are optimists, but do you really have faith? Because there are people who believe and then they see. And then there's people who see and then they believe. Which one do you have to be? You have to have faith. I mean, just unshakable faith that yes, things are tough right now. Yes, I'm eating a lot of macaroni and cheese. But you know what? One day that macaroni and cheese is going to be steak. You know, you've got to have that faith. So how do we develop that faith? How do we do it? So again, it's not a simplistic thing. It's a hard thing. I've got to have this unshakable thing. Like, I know you can't see it, but I promise you know what? It's going to be so much better. I promise you. In 8 months, here's what your life is going to look like if you stick with me. All right? So there's a saying in the venture capital community that an entrepreneur has to drink their own Kool-Aid. I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but you've got to drink the Kool-Aid because how can you, like if you're trying to convince somebody to invest in you or take it out of the investment world, a strategic vendor, a supplier, a partner, an employee, how do you convince them to join you in your cause if you don't believe, right? So they say, you've got to drink the Kool-Aid first. You have to believe before you can expect me to believe. You've got to have enthusiasm before you can expect to transfer that enthusiasm. So you've got to drink your own Kool-Aid. All right? So how do I do that? And there's a lot of tactics and a lot of things, because this is a deeper subject. Again, it sounds simplistic, but it's not. It's hard. But one tactic could be, you know what, like your brain, imagining, if you could imagine, imagining is a very, very powerful thing. I think it was Steve Beacham who said something about paint a picture. Like if I could allow you to paint a picture, like if I could say, you know what, I want you to imagine what your life will look like just 13 months from today. And if I could do that, like if I was going to do this tactic with you, like if I was going to take the time, which we're not, but if I was going to take the time to have you close your eyes and I describe this picture of you standing on top of a tall building with your toes hanging over the edge and the wind is a-blowing in your hair, what would start happening to you right now? Wouldn't you start feeling funny in your stomach? You start getting this funny feeling in your stomach. Your hands might start sweating. You'd start feeling the same physical sensations as if you were actually standing on top of that tall building, right? Because imagining makes things real. So for me to increase my faith, I've got to imagine with crystal clarity of what that life is going to look like because it makes it real to me. Just like all of us, please raise your hand if you have ever cried at a movie. You ever cried at a movie? Did you know it was a movie while you're watching it? Why did you cry? I walked in on my wife and she was watching this movie and she was bawling, she was crying, and I walked in, I was like, what's wrong? And she was crying, oh, it's so sad, the little boy died. And I was like, oh, and my first feeling was relief because it wasn't me and that she was mad at. And then the second thing, it was like, and I was making fun of her because she was crying. I said, you should be rejoicing for that little boy. That little boy's getting paid like $1 million for that role. You should be happy for him. You're bawling because the little kid is sad. That little kid got paid. But imagining makes it real. So, clarity. How do you develop crystal clear clarity? I can't have faith in things that don't have clarity. Do you expect me to have a strong faith in you and your ability as an entrepreneur if you're taking a business to the next level? What in the world does that mean? Next level? No, define that. I don't have clarity on it. We all have different vague perceptions of what next level is. What about, you know what? You want me to get excited about you because you have the premier agency? Premier, what does that mean? Full service? What? Full service. Everybody's full service, but I don't know what that means. No, I want clarity. Absolute clarity. Don't tell me you're going to increase my success. Say, you know what? Hey, you know what? You join me in this cause. Here's exactly how much money you're going to get and by when. Here's exactly how your life is going to look like by when. That kind of clarity. That kind of ability to paint a picture. There's a guy in Athens that runs a marketing agency, and this guy's a really great speaker and a wonderful thought leader on marketing. But he lives in Athens, and he hired one of my MBA students. Or he was trying to. And my MBA student had this better job opportunity in Atlanta making more money with a larger firm. And so my MBA said something, basically said in a very polite way, why should I stay in Athens and work for you? And this is probably a bad example to pick out because I can't articulate this as well as this friend of mine did. But he basically said, I tell you exactly why you're going to work for me. Because there's going to be one day that we're going to be face down and we're going to have a deadline and you're going to be stressed out about a certain deadline that we're going to do for a client. And I'm going to reach behind my office door and I'm going to pull out that Nerf gun that I keep behind there and I'm going to walk up to your desk and I'm going to shoot you in the forehead. And then I'm going to tell you to close your computer, let's go out for a drink. That's why you're going to work for me. He painted, I didn't do as good a job as he did, but he painted a very clear picture versus we're going to be successful. We're going to maximize shareholder value. Who gets up in the morning, jolted out of bed, like, I get to maximize shareholder value today? That doesn't mean it. So we have to have clarity, clear things that have meaning for us to increase our faith. So, what's the next one? Everybody know who this is, right? Johnny Cash. What was Johnny Cash's most successful song? The one that sold more than any other song. I hear a lot of different variations. No, Ring of Fire. Ring of Fire. So the first one's faith, right? What can I do to increase my faith? What can I do to do that? And then the next one is fire. I've got to be on fire about this. And that's a tough thing because sometimes, and we Google that, what's the most important trait of an entrepreneur? Usually you see things like passion and all that, and we hear people talk about that. So how do I maintain that? Because the problem with passion is it's up once, and then it's down, and then maybe you get it back up, but then it's down. How do I consistently stay on fire about this? What do I do? Anybody know this, by the way? This is Ralph Waldo Emerson. And I like a lot of his quotes, but one of them is, nothing great was ever achieved without flaming enthusiasm. I've got to have that enthusiasm, and I've always liked that. Because enthusiasm, if we take the word enthusiasm and we translate it literally means the Spirit of God within us. What is special and unique about you? You are designed with something special and something unique. And then if I could take that piece of you and that piece and transfer it to others, take that unique gift that you have and get it to others. How do I do that? So that's why I've always liked that. So nothing great was ever achieved without flaming enthusiasm. Hey, the students are laughing. They know I had to throw out a Rocky at some point. You kind of. So Rocky, I'm a Rocky fan. By the way, that was actually a test question. No, it wasn't a test question in yours, but the best Rocky. What is the best Rocky, by the way? Thank you. You're right. You passed. Good thing you graduated. So I was thinking about this concept, and this is sort of, this is the story that comes to me. So to me, one of the things I have to do to be on fire for something is I have to have a defining moment. And I thought about this concept a long time ago. Before I started teaching at University of Georgia and started their entrepreneurship program, one of the things I used to do is I used to travel and talk. I was still an entrepreneur, but I got involved in franchising, and I loved the challenge of how do we take a random person and plug them, let's just go to the mall and pick out a random person, and we're going to plug them into the mall. Plug them into our system of doing business, and they're going to make $100,000 a year for themselves and their family. How do we create a system like that? How do we do that? And so that was always a fun challenge. And so one of the things you get to do is you get to travel around and go talk to all these successful business owners, because that's all a franchise really is the best business practices of successful people, and you're packaging that up. And there was this guy, a franchise that I'm biased towards, it's called California Closets. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but I got to interview their best franchisee. And I was with him, and I said, how do you outperform everybody? You got the same kind of territory, same marketing, same this, same that. What makes you different? And why are you so successful? And he basically says, well, I'll tell you exactly the day it happened. And he immediately had my attention. The day it happened? He said, yeah. He said, I was walking out of the hospital, and I was in the parking lot of a hospital. And my wife was just diagnosed with breast cancer. And she was going to have she was pregnant with our second child. And that's when I knew. He said I was within a couple of weeks of filing bankruptcy because I had the business for about 5 years and I was failing at it. But then, when I got that sort of okay, you know what, I'm going to be bankrupt, my wife is sick, second child, what am I going to do? He said, I am not going out like this. I'm going to go talk to who I need to talk to, get the help where I need to get help. I'm going to work I'm going to do what I need to do. I am not going to allow this to happen. I was looking for this magic bullet, I do something in marketing that nobody else does, or I do something running my management team that nobody else does. But it was basically just an individual decision. Look, this is, you know what, today my life changes forever. Today I change. I had a defining moment. And I think all of us need to have a defining moment. Why are you here? Why are you doing this? What's the thing that's going to get you out of bed in the morning? Or, as somebody once said to me, which I thought was really cool, so cool. Again, doesn't translate well, because this guy was a military guy, career military guy. He got right up in my face, and he said, what is your battle cry when you go through the dark night of the soul? It's that is so cool. That is so cool. So, when you start a business, when you are the owner of a business, people key off of what you do. That concept was already talked about. But I was reminded of this during the campaign. Have you ever seen, during a political campaign or anything like that, somebody stick a mic in their face and say, hey, you know what? What are you going to do about the economy? I have no idea. Have you ever heard that? They always have an answer, right? They always have something. So the idea that people key off of what you do. There's this woman that I know that's just a wonderful lady, and she's a great business owner, but she's got this nervous energy because she's so intense, and everybody keys on, and it makes all her people around here feel like things aren't necessarily going great. So the idea that, look, for me to develop that fire in others, people are going to key off of what I do and how I do it. All right. So focus on what you're interested in, not what you're good at. If you're interested in something, it's going to keep your fire. Hey, I do this. Why? Because I do it better than others. Well, so what? Are you interested in it? Well, no. Then stop doing it. All right? Why is the world a better place because you exist? Why is the world better? All right? If I can answer that question and that question well, that might increase my fire. All right? I'm going to skip Thoreau. I might come back to Thoreau. Let me go to Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa, she once said this that kind of stuck with me. She said, like if I focus on the masses, I won't act. But if I think about the one child I can help, I will. Right? So the idea that, what can one woman do to affect poverty on a continent? She can't do anything. But you know what? That one child. So I know when things get tough and things get challenging, you're like, I got all of these problems. I got more emails to get to than I possibly can. I got all these fires to stomp out. I know. Who's the one person that you can serve and help? What's the one thing you can do? So, all right. Who's that? Brandy? Good. All right, I'll be so impressed if somebody gets this. What song? Name a Brandy song. Focus. I know, it's a deep cut. I get it. All right, so focus. Focus. So we got faith, we got fire, and we got focus. Because entrepreneurs, we're great at addition, but we're horrible at subtraction. We love to add things to our plate. We cannot take them away. So what's the one thing? The one thing. I love asking that question. If you could only do one thing today, what is that? If there's only one thing you could do today to be a better father, what is that one thing? If there's one thing I can do today to impress my wife, and what would it be? That's just a great question because it focuses me. Because all of us struggle with focusing on the right thing. That is a hard thing to do. Focus is a very, very challenging thing. How do we stay focused on the right thing? If there was only one thing we could do that moves our business down the field the farthest, what is that one thing? It's a hard thing to know. And so based on that one thing, what if I'm held accountable for one key performance indicator? It's like, okay, there's only one thing professionally, and how am I going to be held accountable for that? And what's the key? What's the thing? I want to measure it, I want to manage it, and I want to be held accountable to it. I want one thing in my business life, I want one thing in my personal life. And who holds you accountable? There's all kinds of wonderful, like Tim Fulton with Vistage. There's other Vistage folks in here. I tell you what, if you don't get involved with Vistage, then get involved somewhere to get some help and have somebody else help you, hold you accountable to get these better, to hold yourself accountable to key performance indicators. So, and here's another question on focus that I like. What would you recommend? Somebody comes to you with all these problems, all these issues, employees come to you taking your focus away, and they want you to solve it. So what do you recommend? What do you recommend? Anytime there's a problem, what do you recommend? I promise you that helps you stay focused. That is a wonderful phrase. I'm so glad I learned that. All right. Gamification. I'm big on gamification as far as keeping focus. How do I make this a game? How do we win the game? If you can turn things into a game, it can be a lot more sort of enjoyment, a lot more focus, because you're going to make the game focused on the right key performance indicators. So, let me wrap that up. All right, here's sort of my conclusion. Because, look, I'm not asking you guys to agree with me, because maybe you don't. That this, like if there was only 3 things, what are those 3 things? I do believe in, if I had to pick 3 things that I could increase, it would be, I want to increase my faith, I want to increase my fire, and I want to increase my focus. And if I had all 3 of those, if I was focused on the right strategic objective, if I had faith that, you know what, this will work, I'm going to make it work, it's going to work, I have clarity on that, I'm going to have faith in it, and if I had the fire to do it every day, even when I didn't feel like it, I think I would be unstoppable. So, So the question is, how can you increase your faith? How can you stay passionate about what you do and how you do it? And how can you stay focused on the right strategic objective? If you keep consistently asking those questions to yourselves and to the other people around you, your employees and your partners in your business, maybe you won't win entrepreneurship, because I still think that is a stupid title, but I promise you, you will win more than you lose if you do that. So, Tim, thank you so much for having me, and thank you guys so much. I really, really enjoyed it, so thank you.
Chris, thank you. Thank you very much.